You're listening to the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast with your host, Cameron Manning. We bring you the industry experts each episode who will help you man up on your real estate career. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast. I'm glad that you're joining us here today. And because today's a special day for the podcast, we talked about how we are going international. We've had a lot of great guests on the podcast that have been from across Canada, across the US. But today we're taking a trip across the pond. We are heading to Europe. We are going to Portugal. Now, the gentleman that I have here today, he has been in the Portugal real estate industry for about 20 years now. He's got a lot of experience with buying, selling, construction. He works with partners worldwide to put Portugal on stage as to a destination that you want to invest in, you want to have a pied-à-terre, you want to have that second home. He knows Portugal, and I'm really excited to have him here. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome António. António, how are you doing, my friend?
Hi, Cameron. And wow, what a beautiful introduction. I think, you're going to get a merit badge just for being ambassador for Portugal, just like me. That's what I'm doing all this. Yeah, I'm doing all this for my ambassador badge. That's all it is. Everything else is, real estate is what we do. It is not who we are. And we love where we are. And we're happy to talk about it and, and to see it grow. And that's what's beautiful. But definitely, I'm going to recommend you for a merit badge as well, my friend.
I appreciate it. We'll stand up together with our merit badge there. Excellent. All right, my friend. Well, we've gotten to know each other over nearly a year now. And again, you've heard this on the podcast before, this amazing app called Clubhouse, which has really created a community worldwide. And that's why I'm excited. We're really branching out worldwide by having António here. But you didn't start in real estate. I know a little bit about your background, just getting to know you and some research here. Let's talk before real estate. What were you doing before real estate, and what kind of led you down to the path afterwards to going into the real estate realm?
Well, Cameron, my life was probably a good part of it. I would say I have two lives. I had and so in a past life was in the United States where I grew up, and we migrated there, my parents. And I'll tell you this, one of the basic principles, and I even wrote a post about this the other day, when we moved to the United States, my parents were looking for three things that are key, which were education, healthcare, and security. Okay, that's why we migrated. That's why many people migrate. That's why I migrated. So I grew up in the East Coast in New Jersey, and got from pirate. I'm a pirate alumni, so in a business management degree. So real estate for me there was just the investment side, okay, which is a total different spectrum of what we do as brokers, as realtors. Mm-hmm. It's the investment, but that also kind of fits in. Now you can help, what it's like. I mean, many people talk about investing in properties, but unless you're doing it and managing properties. So all the things that I've done in the past life kind of helped me here. My background was always about operations. I grew from companies that are still on the NASDAQ, that we started one shop, and I was very fortunate when we started out in New York City. One of the shops was called Illuminations. It went and we grew the brand, started on the East Coast, West Coast. And so my background was just about more recruiting, just training, education. Everything I do now probably got from my experience: social skills, people skills, customer service. I remember when I was taught that we don't have clients. We have friends that come into our shops. Wally Arnold, he wrote a book, and it's still available, Living by Candlelight. So this company I worked for had this culture, this vision that, all about customer service, and just, those are all things I learned in my past life, but mainly because of retaining. When we didn't have to go out and recruit, we retained, we promoted within. People learned the business, etc. Assistant managers, etc. So it's basically in the operations aspect of it, and again, but those are things now that I'm so happy that I did, and even growing, living from East Coast to West Coast in between. I mean, when I tell you that I lived in Jersey, New York, Naperville, Illinois, right outside of Chicago,
you're everywhere.
San Francisco, Dallas, Houston, Orlando, so, and in between, helping and knowing the culture of the American people from in and out, and they're very different and diverse. And that also helps me here today. Believe me, those are all the things that, you go what you go through and you don't know. But I will tell you that when I moved to Portugal, Cameron, it was only going to be a temporary move from my airplane ticket was December 7th, and I was supposed to go back June 7th. Okay. I wanted to be closer to my mother, to my father. They're no longer here. but I got to spend 20 years with them,
That's
almost.
amazing.
And so,
Yeah.
and it was just something that, I don't know, my heart, I felt like doing it. I was able to do it financially. I was able to put that time aside for them. And it made me who I am today. It really did. Excellent. Because I learned a lot about myself, about just, what it is to be falling in love with the country that accepted me. I wasn't from here, didn't speak the language that great anyway. Right. Real estate fell into my lap. And why? Right. Because, it just, I don't know. It's something I wanted to do because I love doing it on the investment side. So I didn't know anything about the relationship part of the business. But I was very fortunate to meet people. You always surround yourself with people around you that mentors, people you look up to. And one of the things they taught me was build relationships, not transactions. And that's what we did. And we built a referral, keep growing a referral business. The best compliment you can get is a referral, right? It's not even a thank you, it's a referral.
Absolutely.
And growing, and then all the experience in the past, growing your business, developing a brand, doing all those things, promoting, marketing, etc. Those are all things that, it just comes together. I don't know. It just kind of, Cameron, you don't plan these things. You really don't. I didn't plan on staying here for 20 years. I didn't plan. This wasn't, it was something temporary. And real estate is just, I always say to people, real estate is what we do. It's not who we are as people, as human beings, relationships, growing, leaving a legacy behind. Real estate is a lot more than just homes. It never is about homes. It really isn't. So, but yeah, long answer to a short, short question.
All good. I mean, what I love about the whole friendship thing, I mean, I'm a big fan of Ryan Serhant, and he says in his book, right, Sell Like Serhant, people like going shopping with friends, right? So the fact that you have that same mentality that they're not clients, they're friends, and we're helping our friends. I love that mentality. It's very different than a lot of salespeople would say, because, and that's why you're successful, because you're building these relationships, you're having, long-term relationships. I'm sure clients call you, years after just to check in. Sometimes you're calling them to check in because that's what we're supposed to do. But I'm sure they call you to check in, right? Because you've built that relationship, right?
Or when they come into town, they're on holiday, because a lot of them do have holiday homes, and they call you and says, Antonio, we want to eat at that restaurant, and you're coming with us, and bring a friend or something. They want to see you. I want to see them. That you're a part of their lives. What's the beautiful thing, and I'm sure you have it too, Cameron. When our business already is generational. You sold it to the grandfather, to the son. Now you're helping their grandkid buy a home, and that's it transcends, it really is about that. And I think that's the most beautiful thing for me. Real estate has been about the relationships that you've created all over the world, even with you. We haven't met each other, but it seems like we know each other. We met on Clubhouse, and
we've talked so many times that we feel like we're best friends already without actually meeting in person, right? Yeah, it's phenomenal.
It's a beautiful application. When it came across, I mean, I haven't figured out a way to meet people globally, all over the world, listen to them, connect with them, then offline, build that relationship as Clubhouse. I mean, many people, it's still kind of new here in Europe, and especially in Portugal. But I know when they really understand how important it is, and if the reach, and if you can use it to in your business, it could be personal, however you want to use it. But I leverage it and use it in my business to connect with people, network, and it's about networking. I think we got to do 1 hour of networking. Somebody said that you have to do 1 hour of networking to meet someone new, your message across a day, right? You have to do it 1 hour because, and even whether you go door knocking or this or that, you have to do 1 hour of not even following up with clients in call. New people, you want to meet new people, and a Clubhouse is a way to do it, in many other ways, of course.
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, there's no better reach that you can do to meet these new people. And for me, and I know for you as well, suddenly you're taking this localized business that you're doing and you're globalizing it, right? And that's what I've been telling people for years. I'm like, listen, you want to buy anywhere? I've got you. I'm your guy. I'm not a Vancouver realtor. I'm a global realtor. I might not be the one that's going to fly there necessarily, but I've got my team. And, Antonio's my team in Portugal. I've got, I just had Jaime Resendez. He's my team in Dallas, Fort Worth, right? Like, you've got these teams you're building of people that can then support your friends when they're looking
relationships. relationships.
Absolutely.
You're building that network of relationships. And you got to imagine, Cameron, I'm out in a little countryside village surrounded by mountains, and it would seem like I'm a hermit, right? Because there's nobody around or whatever, but I'm connected with the world.
Totally.
I am connected with the world.
Love it.
And that's what it's about. I think global real estate for me has been always about global real estate. It really has, because it just fit in. You create niche markets, right? Because first, 20 years ago, speaking English was great. Not that many people were doing it.
Yeah.
Now everybody speaks English.
Mhm.
Now you create different niches. And, I've always had the 80%, 90% of our buyers are international. We work with local markets as well. But now you expand upon that, where the niches now you develop, where now you have a lot of buyers coming in. What do they need? Buyer representation. Okay, there isn't that much of it here. So you create niches, and you don't have to be in the middle of a city, or you could be in a small little country village like I am, and you're connected with the world, and you're feeding off then referrals. You're through the pipeline where your clients are coming from, and you're just feeding it off to, as you say, you're connecting the dots like I am.
Absolutely.
We're dot connectors, and finding the right person, the right friend, client, with the right referral partner, with the right colleague, with the right team member. Sometimes
100%.
It's all about connecting those dots, and that's what we do, and that's what relationships are about, and understanding what you can see. Okay, this is what I want, this is what I need, and getting it there. And that's another reason our name of our brand is Infinite Solutions. It's all about solutions.
100%.
About solutions.
And I love it too, because there is an infinite number of solutions when you think hard enough and you put it in play, right? So
you have to think out of the box. Sometimes you do have to get creative in any business deal. How can we do this? Okay, how can we make this happen? It's got to make it happen. If there's a will from both parts, then we could do it. And you got to find it. You have to, whether it's a law, you have to, it's a legal way to do it, a financial way to do it. However it can be done, it needs to get it done, and that's what we do, and that's the thing. And sometimes it's it takes time, it takes patience, of course, but we do it. That's who we are, right?
Absolutely. Now I got a question here. A lot of my clients, a lot of people who listen to this are investors themselves, and you talk about the investment in Portugal, and you talked about how you're working with investors, you work with buyers, you work with sellers, but you work with a lot of investors who are buying in Portugal from that perspective. Let's talk about that investment. So why would somebody look into, let's say from Canada, look to invest in a country like Portugal? What is the draw from the investment perspective? So I'm really curious on this aspect.
Well, I'll break it down.
Basically, give me your pitch.
No, I'm going to give you, I can give you over 100 reasons, but I'm going to leave it with you 5 real briefly.
Love it.
Number one is climate. Portugal has over 3,300 hours of sunshine per year, making it one of the highest rates in Europe. Number 2, satisfaction. Okay, 80% of the people who visit Portugal on a holiday do come back year after year, and some make it their permanent home, because once they try the gastronomy, the food, the diversity of the Portuguese people, the warmth of the Portuguese people, that's also the same reasons. And these reasons I'm giving you, they're my reasons for being here. Okay. And so that's number 2, satisfaction. Number 3 has to do with values in comparison to other European cities. Okay. Like Milan, London, Paris, Barcelona, Madrid. House prices, value, even renting properties. Okay, it's affordable as the most affordable Western European country, any capital. It's a third less than, say, in one of those bigger capitals, whether you're buying Lisbon and Porto, and we're talking about suburbs and everything. That's not even those prices, right? That's 3. Number 4, you have visa processes that are easy for investors, buyers, the tax incentives, non-habitual resident status. You have golden visa programs, buying a property. How many times we think about, I wish I had a second passport, one during COVID, that I could easily get away from the US or Canada, where I have a home. Well, we have certain processes here, buying a property, golden visa, that you can do it. And there's tax incentives, because the whole initiative of these programs is to capture that foreign investment, to rehabilitate. You have to imagine how Lisbon was 10 years ago, or even Porto, bigger cities, and how they are now. foreign investors, all these incentives for people to bring and to do it. And it's easy to do business here in Portugal. It's not complicated, even the whole process is. And, because if anyone wants to come to Portugal now on a Schengen or tourist visa, from the US, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, you don't even need a visa process. And then you have if you want to stay more than that, the facility also with the passive income visa works well for retirees in conjunction with the non-habitual resident status. You can qualify for up to 10 years tax exempt on your passive income. Okay.
Crazy.
That's number 4. I'm still up to number 4 and number 5 and number 5. We think about it, and that's what I initially opened up when we were talking about the same reasons that I'm living here in Portugal, that I see many younger families. It's just not retirees now, Cameron.
Yeah.
And then people looking to hear. You're talking about 3 basic principles. And one of the most important ones is safety. And this is not an opinion. This is a fact. The 3rd safest country in the world to live is Portugal by the Global Peace Index. Number 1 is Iceland. Number 2 is New Zealand. Number 3 is Portugal. So I like Iceland. It's nice, and New Zealand, but this is Portugal. So yeah. those who qualify or had a better rating than us. So that's 5. I can give you over 100, but I'll leave it at that.
Well, those top 5 are definitely they're enticing for sure. Now, one thing I want to do then is break down. Talk to me about a typical investment type property. Let's say I'm an investor looking from Vancouver. Now, in Vancouver, as you're well aware, our market is one of the most expensive in Canada, right? I mean, if you own a home in Vancouver, let's say on the west side, you're sitting on like $3 million property for a basic home now, right? So let's say I pull equity from my home and I want to invest in Portugal. What is kind of the average price points we're looking at? What's the typical rents we're getting? And what does the cash flow look like to earn that passive income?
Okay.
Just a simple example.
No, from the north, I'll base it on like a 3-bedroom home, a 3-bed, 3-bath, and the different regions and the prices are. Okay. Perfect. And I'll tell you this, even on the interior part of Portugal, your ROIs are going to be significantly higher because anywhere along the coast or bigger cities, Lisbon, Porto, Algarve, etc., they're mature markets. Okay. So the growth is there in the interior. And that's why also the government is focusing on that right now, even with the golden visa programs and tax benefits on the interior. But based on a 3-bedroom home here in our local market, where you can buy 3-bedroom, 3-bath, like an acre of land or a quarter of an acre or half an acre of land, etc., even with the swimming pool, you're looking at prices of like between close to 300,000, 325,000 euros, right? When you go a little further down south towards Porto, that home would probably be in excess of like 450,000. Okay. When you get down to the central part near Coimbra, and the interior part, it's significantly lower. That same house may be around 250,000. Why? It's further away from the coast, right? When you go down to the Silver Coast, it's basically the same prices around Porto, around 450,000. Getting closer to Lisbon, that same home would be about 600,000-700,000 euros. Okay. When you go down to the Algarve, basically the same. You got to imagine building like, in 200 square meters is like 2,000 square feet, just add a 0. Yep. Okay. On a 200 square meter home, to build a brand new home, doesn't matter where you build it in Portugal because it's all the same. The land is going to change. Okay. The price. So if you want to buy a nice plot of land to build a beautiful home in the Algarve, overlooking the ocean, etc., you're going to pay over $500,000 or $1 million or whatever, but here you can find up here in the north or in other parts, 100,000, 150,000 euros. So that same piece of land, right? So the difference is the land. The building of the home, you're looking at like around 1,200 euros per square meter to 1,500. That's like a complete home, furnished, the appliances, just top of the line, solar systems, heatings, all the, new technological just way to comfort of a home. And you're looking at 1,200 to 1,500. That's basically a natural medium. So when you look at it, like a 200 square meter home, which is 2,000 square feet, you're looking at like around 225,000, 250,000 to build that home. Okay. And then plus the land. So, the numbers are there. You're not going to differentiate from there. Even as a national statistic now, It doesn't apply, of course, to Lisbon and Porto or bigger cities,
Of course.
because you can pay up to like 10,000 euros a square meter, like 6, 7, 8 and above.
Very, very similar to, let's say, Vancouver, Toronto, much more expensive to build in.
Oh, it's, you know, and then, but comparison to like a national average this is from the National Institute of Statistics. Okay. Even for an appraisal, you're looking at now, it's 1,258 euros per square meter. That's a national, and that's accurate. Because in my local area, you can buy a nice 3-bedroom apartment around 125,000, 130,000 euros. And that's, you know, those are the numbers. So, you know, I hope that's the answer to your question.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. Now, what kind of rent? Let's say you buy one of those properties. Let's go into the interior, because we're looking strictly from an investment. So you were saying we're looking at between 250 to, let's say, 350, right? So what kind of rent and what would the cash flow be looking like that on a monthly basis?
You're looking at, you know, renting a property like 200,000 euros. Okay. Here, you could get probably that house, you know, with the pool, everything, you know, on a monthly rent, you can get anywhere between 1,500 to 1,800 euros a month. It would work best as well is actually flats. Okay. To rent out. That's a good market that we're having here. We're very low inventory right now on homes, quality homes like everywhere in the world, right? We're no different. We're no different.
It's a global thing happening.
It's a seller's market. I mean, I don't know what market you're in, but if it's not a seller's market, then it's very different from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
You know, and even the renters, a rental market, there's even less properties available, because one of the reasons is because prices are unaffordable for one, so people rent, etc. But even like buying like 125,000 euro investment apartment, a 3-bedroom, okay, 3-bedroom, you could rent, you get a bigger return probably than buying the 200,000 euros. Okay. What I mean by that, your yield is going to be bigger, because what happens is that you're going to be able to get on that return about a good, you know, 600, 700, 800 euros per month. And that's in the local, that's not even in the bigger cities, you know, because that same 3-bedroom apartment, of course, in major like cities, like where universities are, like Braga, Coimbra, those are good investment opportunities, because anywhere, Évora, where universities are, students are always moving, teachers are always moving, professors, etc.
There's a nice turnover. It's consistent. It's nice turnover.
You know, so in those, even the interior village of like the Guarda, the Fundão, they have great universities. They're way interior, but you could pick up like a 3-bedroom apartment in those prices, and you can rent. What a lot of property owners do, they have like a 3-bedroom, or actually they turn it into a 4-bedroom, and they rent out the rooms for like 150 euros per room. Okay, so you're getting a return like 600 euros per on an investment of 125,000 euros, and that's the kind. So you look at the numbers and the ROIs, and they're not. We're in the center of like mature markets, Lisbon, Porto, Algarve, etc. You're only going to get like maybe a 5%, 4-5% return. Whereas in these other more not so mature markets, that's where you get a bigger ROIs, and you're looking at 12, 15%, if not more, you know, in those investments.
Love it. No, it's definitely interesting, because I mean, you know, when you've got a lot of people who are looking, we've got, like I said, people are selling their homes for $3 million. It's nothing to take cash and buy 125,000 euro, you know, condo or a flat, as you say. You know, it's a drop in the bucket, right? So that's a great way that people can, you know, spread their investment out and diversify themselves into these other markets, right? Now, I know one thing talking to you is that the purchase process is very, very different. You know, this is one thing that, you know, if someone's coming from, let's say, Canada or US, where there's this very strict format, and they come into another country, what do they need to be prepared for? Like, how does the process work for purchasing a home? Like, take us through that.
Okay. You know, the real estate is real estate, you know, and finding the home, etc. So that part is the same. Okay, and the buying process and searching and everything. That's no matter where you are in the world, unless you're in a different part of the world, but that's how real estate is done.
You look for real estate and you find it, and then the process starts.
The procedural is not so different from the US and Canada. There's quite a few different points. For example, we don't have escrow accounts. We don't have an earnest deposit. We don't have like titles, the title insurance. Okay. What we have is it gets the business done, and it's the acronym is CPCV, which stands for Contrato, Promessa, Compra e Venda. Basically translate, you promise to sell, you promise to buy. The deposit, like you're buying a 200,000 euro home, you're putting 10% down. So you're giving the property owner the deposit. It's not held in escrow, right? So it's given to them. Then it's scheduled. And that's a way to formality. And you could do, and it's a contract, a legal, it's binding contract that you can list all the contingencies, whether you want to get a home inspection or whether you're going for a mortgage loan, etc. So you list the contingencies on there. And then there has to be a date that it sets, like you do the contract, you do the closing in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, whatever the date. So you have to set a date. And at that date is when that's done in the first initial, the solicitor or lawyer will do the due diligence, title searches, make sure that the property has no liens. If it does, they have to be unregistered by the bank, my mortgage, or there's no, liens are one thing, mortgages are another, right? But make sure that everything, if it has on there, these things you can't do that contract if you have these penalizations there, right? And it's all registered, that all these things, every single property, there's an article, whether you have it for a land or whether you have it for a home. Okay, it's an urban article and a rustic for the land, urban for the home. And so it's registered in the finance office, in the land office registry. So the solicitor, lawyer, notary can do that due diligence, the title searches to make sure who owns it. Okay, they all have to sign that promise to buy, promise to sell, all the signatures. Imagine if it's an inheritance property, somebody's inheriting, and you have like 10 signatures. All of them have to sign it, or power of attorney. And then the deposit is given to one of the property owner, and they're responsible for it. And until the day of the closing. And then you close it. And then again, the notary, the deed, there is the title search is all done in that moment of when the property is being done for the closing.
Right.
The notary has access to the database. It's all digitalized now. It's with the Ministry of Justice, everything. So they know exactly if there's a lien on there, how much is the lien, the bank has to be there to receive their check, to cancel that lien. So then if another bank is putting a lien on the property, everything gets registered that moment. It's, and so that's why that's why there's no title insurance. So those are the big differences. The title insurance, earnest deposit, escrow accounts. Because everything else is pretty much set and bound. It's a notary, always get a notary to do well. Solicitors can do it, lawyers and notaries, you can do it. And those are the people that do the official closings and the acts. But everything is the minute that, even if it's a cash deal, okay, you pay cash. The minute it's done, the deal, the property owner says, I've accepted payment. They sign off the closing. And the property gets registered in your name. It's already in your name. There's no waiting period, nothing to get registered.
It's fascinating, especially
simple. It's simple.
It is very simple. It's fascinating too. Again, coming from somebody who we deal with things obviously a little different. So that's why I always love kind of learning about these different styles, because we as the agents, we do the title search up front. Right. So we make sure that we have that title all figured out prior to it even going to the solicitor for closing, because we want to find out what the liens are.
You're talking about the listing agreement, right? Like when you're doing the listing agreement. That's
even when I'm representing a buyer, we actually ask for that title search as part of the offer, right? So then we do our due diligence.
Of course. That's what we do as realtors, as the professionals. We're looking at that before it goes further along. You want to make sure. Whether you do the listing agreement or when you're doing the buying agreement, the representation, before it gets to that, of course, we look at it first and make sure that who is this person here? You know what I mean? This person was never mentioned. But even when you do a listing agreement, you got to know who owns title to the property, because they all have to sign the listing agreement.
Right? Same here. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's interesting.
It's no different, Cameron. The only difference is earnest deposit, escrow accounts, and the title insurance, because we don't have that here.
Totally. I mean, we have the title insurance. Obviously, it's something that they recommend here heavily. We don't do escrow as well in Canada, so we are very similar on that regards. It's either we put the deposit money in trust with a lawyer at closing, or sometimes it does go directly to the seller as well. I have had several of those scenarios where you try to especially if you're a multiple. hey, I'll throw the deposit to you directly, right? So that way we don't have to go through the process of getting it released through trust. So very, very similar in a lot of those regards, but definitely some different things. We do have the title insurance because things come up afterwards. Let's say there's an encroachment or something that wasn't registered on title. We have that title insurance to protect. But yeah, I mean, so it sounds like it is a somewhat similar process then. It's US that's a little different with the escrow stuff. But you know, we have a very similar process overall, which is interesting. So it's good as investors or as people looking to buy. You're not going to be as thrown by the process, especially if you're used to purchasing one way. It's very, very similar. And then again, you have an expert like Antonio who's going to take you through the whole process.
Yes, but I leave that to the legal team.
Yeah,
we do. You know, anything that has when we do have a buyer or a seller, either way, they have to verify. And that's why we collect those documents first.
Yeah.
Then it's given to the lawyer before anything is done, any contracts are written up or anything. You know, that's when you call it exchanging contracts. Yeah. That's when it's signed and you promise to buy, promise to sell. And before any of that stuff gets done, a lawyer, solicitor will look at those documents because, you know, we know real estate, you know, and we know the documents, but
we know what we know. And that's why we surround ourselves with the experts for the other stuff.
Absolutely.
Especially, you know, I get a lot of times, you know, a ton of people coming to me for accounting advice all the time because they're like, well, you're an investor. And I'm like, yeah. And this is how I do my accounting with my accountant. You need to talk to your accountant for your specific things. But, you know, it's amazing because people think that you're specialized in this. You've got to know. And you're like, I do know a lot, but I'm not going to tell you.
We do know a lot, but it's best to always have the professional.
Absolutely.
You can offer your, you know, if they ask you your opinion, that's something 100%. Else. Or how we do. And when anytime we talk about it, we know that we talk about our experiences and yes. how we do things. But you have to find what's best for you. Do your due diligence.
100%. And then that's why, again, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. We've created that team. So we have that team locally that, you know, I'll be the realtor, but then I've got the accountant, I've got the lawyer, I've got the home inspector, I've got the brokers, I've got everything you need.
The builder, the architect, the engineer, you got all of it.
Exactly. And so, and then that's where I know if I'm going to recommend you to someone who's on my team outside, let's say to Portugal, Antonio's got that all for you too, right? He's got everything ready. So you're ready to go. And that's why when you guys are investing
in moving companies, the moving company sometimes, you know,
100%. Yeah. Company. There's so many
people are moving. They're moving from the UK and they're moving to here, or they're moving from the US and you want to the containers, the experience. Okay, we work with this company, etc. You know, okay, how do I ship my dog? You know, that's sort of, you know,
their family.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but you got to have those team players and the people that you know, that you trust and you work with for a long time, because there's small details, but they make a big difference in people's lives. And that's what we do, right? Absolutely. That's who we are. That's who we are, Cameron.
Totally. Okay, I've got a fun question for you here, because I've been watching you on Instagram, and I would say I'm a fan of wine, but I'm not, like, I would say, a connoisseur of wine. So I know you are a big fan of, you know, you show the wine that you're drinking on Instagram. It's part of who you are. You like to have fun, probably take your clients out for a nice bottle after a closing. What would be your top 3 recommendations if someone is going to get into Portuguese wine?
Okay, you know, let me just explain a couple of things. Just
absolutely.
You know, we're all enophilos. Okay, what that means, lovers of wine. All of us. You can only call there's a enologo, the winemaker. Mm-hmm. You have the sommelier that partners the wine with the food, and then you have the rest of us, the enophilos. We're enophilos. We love wines. I'll ask you this too. I have a question for you, and that's what I ask people. Like, do you know what the best wine in the world is?
Tell me. I'm not sure. I've got my ones that I like.
The one you like.
There we go.
And so, you know, I'll give you my 3. You know, I have 3 different regions that I love their wine. Okay, they're very distinct in all of them. One is definitely the Minho region where I'm at, which we have its own grape variety. It only gets here, that's made, and it's a special grape variety called Alvarinho. It's part of the Vinho Verde. It's not a mature wine. It's still fizzy, very virgin wine. So it's still young, lower alcohol content. Great. You can have it in red or white. I like the white, especially with salads, fishes, everything, and even meats. You can have it as well. So it's very distinct. So you have the Alvarinho from the Minho, okay, in the Vinho Verde.
Okay.
And then one of my favorite wine regions is from the Douro. Okay. And you have I wouldn't say so much brands. I'm more about the grape variety. And we have what's called the Touriga Nacional, which is the same thing. Like if you go to Spain, Rioja Tempranillo. That's Touriga Nacional. And Touriga Nacional is one of our mainest grapes, and it grows in, that's where the Vinho do Porto, okay, the port wine, world renowned and famous,
Yep.
it comes from the Tempranillo grape variety. So I'm more about the grape varieties, not and the regions. The regions, I love the Douro, because if you ever take a ride on the Douro River, up the river on a cruise, and you see the valleys, you would think, how can wine be made here? How can it be born on schist, on land that, rocky, schisty formations and stuff? And in one of the best wines, nectars, even Bacchus himself probably put his finger there. Says, this has to be blessed, a wine region. So the Douro region is by far one of my favorites. Because of just the way it's part of the UNESCO heritage as well. So there's certain things why I love that region there. And then I have the wine region from around the Alentejo. Okay, Alentejo is the more hottest part of Portugal, so you have some really stronger wines. Okay, and you have your your grape varieties, your Alicante Bouchette. You have your which even these are some of the grape varieties that were exported here that are not autochthonous to the region. And you have about like the Syrah. Okay, the Syrah, the grape variety, delicious. I mean, you have just different grape varieties there that are distinct. They can only grow there because they have to be hot weather, and they make it very powerful. One of the most famous, probably more emblematic wine estates is the Cartucha. It's the Alentejo. And we were there even in October with some friends, realtors that came on a short trade mission. And if some of them that will be listening, they can verify. It's some delicious wine. And, it's the Alentejo region. But again, it has to do with grape varieties. And we're all enoughless and all the favorite wine. Even the wine grower, that you have some outrageous wines from the local, you go to a dive bar, right? And the local agriculture, okay, the local farmer, he will make some delicious wine that you would think like, okay, it needs to be in a bottle, and it's cheap. Because when you walk into a supermarket, this is the luxury that we have here. You walk into any supermarket, you close your eyes, and you just, okay, this wine, it'll be under like a great wine, €3 or less. Okay, maybe. But you find some outrageously great wines, even no frills. Like you have supermarkets that get it directly from the agriculture, and they put their label on there. But again, it has to do with the grape variety, and it's unbelievable. There's expensive wines. We have wines here, very expensive as well, and the quality, and because we have wine. Okay, I'm going to start talking. Most people think, do you sell homes or do you sell wine? Because I talk more about wine.
I love it. I love it.
I get excited about wine. That's when you see the post. You don't see me posting a lot about homes, or maybe information about homes, but not homes for sale. It's about the wine culture, the gastronomy, the things that I fall in love with this country. That's what the thing. Everything I'm selling or promoting or marketing, these are things that are very. It's my lifestyle. It's what I have, and anybody can have it, And so when you see a lot of the great, and I love to try. You're right. Sometimes I have friends, clients. I get invited over for dinner. They says, leave the wine to me. I'll go pick up the wines because whatever, and they're doing the cooking, and it's just culture. Wine is culture, and Portugal's wine culture is very, 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 very long and very rich cultural. Some of the great wines of the world, of course, no comparison to like you hear about France and other emerging markets like South Africa, United States, for example, Australia, South Africa. You mentioned South Africa as well. We have one thing that's probably goes against us. We don't have a lack of quantity. Maybe we have more quality. We don't. It's not produced a lot, so the price naturally when it goes to the outer markets. But here, it's a luxury going into a supermarket, and anybody that lives in Portugal knows. You go into a Pingo Doce or Intermarché, whatever, and you can pick up a €3 wine, €4 wine. You'll say it's one of the delicious wines. It can compare against any Bordeaux or any other wine in Spain or whatever, Argentina, Chile. They have so many great wines all over the world, but we don't fall short of it. And on the quantity, yes, we can't produce that much, but the quality, no. Okay, enough more about wines, because otherwise
we can do a whole other podcast on wine.
Another podcast just about wine if you want.
All right, we're going to be launching the Antonio Cameron wine podcast here soon.
No, but actually, I saw that you did that. But you do that. You did that. I was watching that the other day with you and someone. Comparing wines, trading wine, and I love that. I actually watched that as well. I'm not sure if I was on Instagram or YouTube that you do it, but but that's it's a part of what we like to do, and I think as you would see, there's so much of it in the social media, social world, that people want to see our other side of what is it that ticks you.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key thing. And that's what I've really liked about watching it as well, is because, a lot of people do focus, like you just see just sold, just list, just sold, just list, but who are you? Right. And knowing that, Antonio is someone who loves to go out and enjoy a nice glass of wine out in the sun, whatever, that gets to know you. And then it's like, hey, he's the kind of guy I want to go and buy a home with, because we can then sit there and
we'll find your avatar.
Exactly.
You find someone that
hash out the contract over a glass of wine and just enjoy the nature and everything.
Yeah, you don't see me playing golf. I'm not a golfer. Okay, I have friends that are maybe miniature golf. I love going to the golf, but you don't see me playing golf. You don't see me. Do I love sailing? But these are the things that are simple to me that I like. That the wine, the people, the friends, the tapas, the gastronomy. Selling homes. I love what traveling, visiting, etc. These are the simple things in life for me. They really, and you have them so close by that you do it. I don't take it for granted. It for granted. For me, I always say to people, where my office is? Outside. And all realtors, your homes, your office should be outside. You're knocking on doors, you're doing viewings, you're visiting properties. So your office is outside. If you spend too much time in the office, you're doing something wrong. So so I'm outside and just discovering something new. Even when I go with the client, visit a property here or there, like for me, like I was Sunday in Porto. I don't know what day. Today's Tuesday. Yesterday I was in Villanova Cerveira. Tomorrow I'm going over to Spain. Thursday, like every single day, your office is different, and the experience is different. And I like to share it because these are things that I could do it. I'm no millionaire. Okay, maybe I have a couple of bucks saved up, but I'm not, but anybody can do it. It's affordable. It's the quality of life. Those are the things that, and I think people, that's probably what I try to transmit to people, is that what you can afford. I can afford this. Anybody can afford this. It doesn't have to be. And there's people that when they have their retirement pensions, they could do it. I'm not drinking Dom Perignon every day or having, I like it every once in a while, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm great with the €3 bottle of wine because it's absolutely delicious. So it's simple things. Cameron.
Absolutely, I love it. Now, one question that I ask all of my guests, and I'm sure if you've listened to the podcast, you've seen this before.
I'm single. I'm not looking, but I am single. No, that's not it.
Well, we can work on the matchmaking side later. But I always like a book recommendation. So as entrepreneurs, as people in business, we do read a lot of books. We keep ourselves, our minds, our knowledge, everything like that. But there's always that one book that everyone has that has impacted them the most. So I want to know what that one book is for you.
Carnegie wrote a book about 100 years ago, how to win friends and influence people. Okay. It's still applicable today.
Absolutely.
And especially today, and this was written over 100 years ago. And sometimes when I try to, I can imagine what it was like 100 years ago, but that philosophy still works here today. The simplest thing, look at social media. Everything is about engagement. It's not about likes, and it's about engagement. And even just the simple thing of saying somebody's name, writing it out when somebody hears the powerful message. When you hear your name, you write, "Hi, Cameron. How are hello, Cameron." It's just not a like, it's whatever. It's that engagement. That's that. And in this world that we're living, everything, it's fast paced, virtual, so much, right, that you don't really have time. But right? When you have that one little thing, I mean, there's so many things, but that's one of the books that I probably, it's it's always around. It's like, you pick up, it's like you're looking at it. You look at it, you don't read it all, but you open it up and you say,
reference.
Okay, click. And I probably recommend it. I mean, there's so many of them I could talk about, but if there's one that's one for me.
So How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, what I love about the fact that he recommended this book is it ties right back to what we talked about at the very beginning, how he likes to, build relationships and create friendships with everyone that he meets, right? So
we circle back, right?
Right? I don't even think he meant to do that, but just subconsciously, he's always got this mentality in hand that it's all about friendship.
That's what it's about. But that's what it's about. I think if you go through life and you can't develop, one of the things that I'm very fortunate, and you too, I know you are, and I know because those are the people I'm around with. I'm not around anybody that does not have or doesn't understand what long-term relationships are and friends. I'm not around those people. Neither are you. We don't need that.
100%. No,
we don't. So I don't have a doubt about that, Cameron. And I think it's important that when you create those, when you realize that these are, I don't have family. My family are my friends. I don't have my mother. I don't have my father, so I have my support group, the people that, you depend on, they depend on me. And when you build that, it's, you have that core, it just grows upon it. And I think that's what I have a client of mine that he said to me it's very important. I'll never forget it. He says, we're always adding. Remember that we're always adding. It's not about a commission here, a commission there. We're always adding. Even if it's that, okay, you're adding on a friend, you're adding on. So you're always adding. And that's what it is. And I'm adding relationships. I don't look at the numbers. We don't look at the numbers. The numbers are there. They come. They come.
It's a byproduct.
It's a byproduct, and that's probably why we circle back to it. But it really is one of those books that, like, in today's world, believe me, in today's world, I think people still need to go back 100 years ago and see what worked, because it does. 100%. And and it was the simplest thing. We didn't have, and now it's text messages, but writing out a card, thank you, or that sort of thing.
Absolutely. I love it. And no, I agree with you. The principles are always going to be the same, because at the end of the day, it's human engagement, human relationship. The medium has changed, but the actual relationship style and how you build with people, that has never changed, right? And we are humans 100 years ago, we are humans today, right? So Antonio, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is one that I've been excited about. Like, I love the energy that Antonio brings. He loves what he does. He loves Portugal. He loves his wine. I absolutely love the energy he brings. Now, I want to make sure that I can provide some value to you. So if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what is the best medium that they can find you? So that way, if they're thinking about buying Portugal, we can make sure that happens for them.
Real simply, probably what everybody has, it's like your 10K card. Okay. Antonio 10K.com. Simple. All the social media is there. Everything, it's there. Everything's there. Antonio 10K.com. I can give you my website. I can give you my Instagram, but everything is there. It's so simple.
And what we'll do, if you're listening, you go down into the show notes. We are going to link that in the show notes as well, so you can access it very easily. Antonio, again, my friend, it was so good connecting with you. I know we got hours of difference apart here, but this was fantastic. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And let's keep in touch. I'm excited to continue building this relationship.
Absolutely. We definitely got to do when, or maybe even together, like on Instagram Live or something, even together with some realtor chefs or realtor enthusiasts, wine enthusiasts, maybe doing a live or something. Those are all ideas just to share. And I love that,
let's do it.
I get involved, but I really want to thank you. I know you've been inviting me for such a while, but it's just with all the stuff going on and everything. So I'm very happy that we did it. Believe me, Cameron, it's always, you're always one of those special people that when I met in Clubhouse, I knew, this is someone, and there's quite a few. We have them. We know who they are.
We know
they're in special. We hold them because, they're, you want to be together around these friends
it's
all the
energy.
Time.
It's the energy everyone brings.
Yeah. And I'm really happy as well, Cameron. We got to definitely repeat it, or whether it's wine or food, whatever. I'm game. I'm game. Even real estate. Okay, but real estate could be boring sometimes.
And that just goes to show we know what he loves: hanging out with friends and doing the casual stuff, and then business happens, right?
It happens. Cameron, the best deals I've ever made, and I'm sure you have. Where were they? Around the dinner table, around the lunch table.
Absolutely.
Food, conversation, etc. And the last thing, that when a client wants to close the deal, he's going to tell you. You don't have to tell him or ask. He's going to tell you. And things happen naturally if they do it. There's a natural event of things, and that's what it's all about. So, my friend, olha, grande abraço, okay? A strong hug. Grande abraço de Portugal on the other side of the pond.
Love it. Thank you so much again, Antonio. And again, thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. If you guys enjoyed this episode, we really appreciate it if you give us a rating. That definitely helps us grow the podcast, get more reach out there, and hopefully we can create more friendships with everyone who's listening to this podcast. Antonio, thank you again, my friends. Everyone, we will catch you guys on the next episode.